special guest, Michael, is waiting by to teach you guys fabulous things. Well, we're more going to have a conversation about it, but for the most part, Michael is really the expert in what I have been talking about today. But before we get into that, great job, everyone, on getting on here, and we've had no glitches and no problems. If you have trouble hearing me, or if you have trouble hearing Michael or seeing anything that we're presenting to you today, on the Lyndsie live show, throw a message in the chat box there and just let us know, give us some feedback on if there's anything going wrong. And if everything's going right, feel free to say that too, because we like to hear that. So I have 3 upcoming events that I would like to share with you all before I introduce Michael. So the first thing that's coming up real soon is on June 17th. You've probably all been privy to the fact that I'm doing the Branch Out Bike Tour for the 2nd year in a row in support of neurological disorders like MS, Parkinson's, Lyme disease, and things like that. So please check out the link that I'm going to email everyone today after the show. And if you haven't donated yet, it would be awesome if you would donate. And just remember that the Canada Revenue Agency really likes it when we donate our money, because then it means that they can give some of our tax dollars back to us, which they don't have to figure out what to do with. So basically, if you give $100 to Branch Out, you're going to get about 45 of that back in a tax credit. So make sure that and if you don't believe what I just said, just check it out on the Canada Revenue Agency website. It is very true. So next upcoming event. This one is actually thanks to Michael, our guest today. He actually, I think it was the first time him and I ever sat down together about 4 months ago. He inspired me to stop talking about doing a client appreciation event for my mom clients and just do it already. So he helped me sort of figure that out in my head, and now it's actually happening. And if you are one of my clients and you're a mom, you've already received information about this. It's happening on Saturday, August 12th. It's there's going to be food, transportation is taken care of, food, there'll be some drinks. It's going to be a great time. And the theme is summer camp for moms. So we're going to be outside, hopefully weather permitting. We don't have to be. There are other facilities at the secret location I'm taking you all to. So yeah, and it's totally free, and it's only for my my mom clients, and each of my mom clients get to bring 1 guest. So stay tuned for that. And thanks again to Michael for the inspiration of that. And lastly, this is still kind of in the works, but I'm quite sure it's happening. Money Success for Moms workshops, a series of 3 workshops happening in Cochrane at the library. Once again, that's free too. And that's going to be going on while there are some kids programs going on too. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And now, without further ado, Michael, the reason that he's going to be talking to you guys today is basically I saw Michael present in a room full of financial professionals, and he killed it, and not in the sort of slimy sales guy way, which is why I thought he was great. So for the past 6 months, we've been getting to know each other. He's done a great job of helping me serve my clients better, and he's taught me a few things, and I figured rather than try to share them with you one-on-one, I would have him be the first ever guest on the Lyndsie live show. So he's got a whole bunch of neat stuff to share with everyone today. So please make sure that you've got, your earbuds in, or you've got a quiet room so you can hear what he's saying. And if you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat box. Just move your mouse to the bottom of the screen, and you'll see there's a little chat box there if it's not coming up on the side of your screen for you already. So I guess, Michael, I have a couple questions for you, but I'll let you start, and then we'll see if I need to ask those questions or if you've already kind of got them worked in.
Or if I cover them.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Lyndsie. Thank you. I'm very, it's my pleasure to be the first guest on here, and I'm very excited to, share some information today, and to share some information about, some products or some strategies that you may not, commonly run into, and that you can work with Lyndsie on to see how you can incorporate this into your financial plan. But it really reminds me of a story kind of wanted to share about my mother. And about a year ago, I sat down with my mom, and we were talking sort of about, hey, what do you want to retire? And my mom, for the longest time, kept being like, I can't retire. I can't retire. oh, I'll never have enough money to retire. And I said, Mom, you know what? And I went out to Vancouver and I sat down with her and I said, we're going to look to see what you can retire. So we added up all her expenses. We added up everything that she was spending on money. We looked at everything type of money that she would be coming in, how much money she saved in her RSPs, how much money she saved in her TFSAs. And I determined, and I said, hey, Mom, if we do this, this, and this, you'll be able to retire today. And for my mom, it was because she was never able to visualize retirement because she never looked at her expenses and her cash flow coming in. And she always looked at the market as something scary because they moved up and down and the news talked, negative about the markets regularly. So for my mom, we were able to say, hey, if you were to do a lifetime guaranteed payout annuity, you would be able to have X cash flow coming in, which would cover your expenses. And for my mom, it was the first time in her life that she was able to visualize retirement because she knew that having $1,000 coming in a month through this lifetime annuity and her money through her guaranteed income and her small pension, she was able to go see her grandkids in Ottawa. She was able to join the exercise club that she wanted to. She was able to spend the time down in Mount Baker in the summer. And for her, she was able to visualize retirement. So that's really what I wanted to kind of, Lyndsie and I discuss, is maybe talk about a option that is not really relevant, and that is a lifetime annuity. So that's really the goal here, is to say, hey, what are the components of that? How can you use this? Even if we're building forward in the future, how can we work towards that? And then also, if you have a life insurance policy, 3 is how you can incorporate that in. And that's really the goals today.
Yeah,
so I'm going to move over to
touched on quickly, sorry, Michael. I just want to make sure that everyone understands, because of what he just said about life insurance. If you were to pass away right now and leave, $500,000 to your 2 kids, what do you do with that, right? Like, how do you turn that into something that's not going to blow them up or turn them into sort of spoiled brats, right? And so that's another question that I really hope you'll answer today, and I trust that you will.
Exactly. And that's the third part and I'll come to that as the third point, because it's really important point. What we're looking at here is when, kind of similar to my mom, it's not so much, what age does someone want to retire? It's at what income.
Yeah.
How much money. And that's the most important. People think and they look, I want to retire at 55, I want to retire at 60, I want to retire at 65. But it's really about how much income do we need in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And then second on that, when we look at retirement, there's changes happen. Mm-hmm. And some of our expenses will stay the same. Our groceries, our property taxes, our insurance, our utility bills, rent, those expenses stay the same. Mm-hmm. Other expenses will decrease. We may not have a mortgage anymore. We may not be funding our child's education. We'll have minimal work expenses. Personal taxes will also, go down, and we won't be making RSP contributions anymore. However, though, with some decreases, we do see some increases, and therefore we'd see, unfortunately, some increases in medical expenses. We might have to have caregivers coming in to help us out. One thing that they don't tell you or we think about, in retirement, every day is a Saturday.
Yeah.
And how much money do you spend on a Saturday? Because you're out and about, you're shopping, going for lunches, meeting people. So in that first part of retirement, you're really enjoying it. That will also increase. So entertainment and travel will increase along with that. So these are things that we got to account for. Mm-hmm. And we got to know, like my mother, that cash flow that's coming in to make sure that we can handle the increases, manage the stuff that stays the same, and take a real benefit of the decreases. Mm-hmm. And one concern, though, that's happening now is, whether it's medical or things, is that we are living longer. The average life expectancy for a 60-year-old male now is 87, and for a female is 89. And what that simply means is that 50% of males will live longer than the age 87.
Mm-hmm.
And 50% of females will live longer than the age 89. As a result of that, we have to take into planning for that retirement. Because if we're getting that freedom 55, we could have another 40 years of retirement, of living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that guaranteed income for life term, I'm hearing it on the radio all the time. And a few of my clients who've recently retired have been like, what is that all about? How do I turn my fairly risky stock and mutual fund and ETF portfolio into something that I can count on, something predictable? And yeah, and I mean, and so I've been asking some of them, have you heard of an annuity? Do you know what an annuity is? And they're like, well, I don't like annuities. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, I don't know. I've just been told that I shouldn't like annuities. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, I don't know. So I'm like, well, I know a guy. He's pretty smart about this stuff. And yeah, so I'm really glad that you're filling everyone in on a lot more of these details today.
And I think a lot of it comes down to balance. And I'm going to talk about the second part. I'm going to talk about the 4 Ds of investing, how we can create success there. But so really, an annuity, just to finalize that detail, is it's based on a person's life. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the reverse of life insurance. Mm-hmm. So if you purchase an annuity, unlike life insurance, will you pay for your life? Mm-hmm. It's done opposite, where you pay a lump sum and then you get checks for the remaining of your life.
Yeah.
And there's a variety of different options and flexibility that could be set up for no matter what the life scenario is.
Yeah. And why aren't you mentioning any company names today, Michael?
Because they're all different and each company is based on sort of rates.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's almost like you get a quote of a rate and those rates are ever changing with like multiple different factors.
Like different banks have different GIC rates.
Exactly. And those rates change on a daily basis. So, one company could be good today, but another company could be good tomorrow. So it's all about shopping, working with Lyndsie to find and source the best quote. Kind of like working with a mortgage broker where they shop and find the best interest rate.
Mm-hmm. And you'll notice that Michael hasn't mentioned any company that he works for. And of course he does work for one, but I promised everyone that I would make sure that there was never any specific product talk or specific company names mentioned. I don't want people to feel like they're being sold to. This is purely for education. And and it's hard to find people in Michael's role who can do that. And so that's another part of the reason why Michael's here, because he's great at just presenting ideas and strategies and not selling you on anything. So yeah, so you're doing an amazing job, and I know you got lots more, so I'll stop talking again.
So that was the first part that I wanted to talk about, were really the components of an annuity. That's really the basics without getting the nitty gritty. But to summarize that, it's really an exchange of checks. You give a life company one check, they're going to give you checks for the remainder of your life. And as a result of that, we source quotes, and any life company can offer that. There's another type that I'll talk about in the third component, which is a term certain. So then that's where you write one check, but you get checks for a certain period of time. But we'll come back to that. Mm-hmm. So next I want to move on to how can we build a pension, right? And what's the proper way to do that? And I just want to quickly go to a video of one of my favorite authors, and one of my favorite books is a gentleman by the name of Tom Hegna. And he writes Paychecks and Playchecks. And his is all about how do you create your own pension. So I just want to cut to a short video of him here.
Whatever happened to happily ever after? Think about it. You'd read those stories to your kids and grandkids, and at the end of every story, what happened? Everybody always lived happily ever after. If you think about it, retirement used to be a promise. You'd work for a company for 30 years. Then what? They'd hold a party. Then what? They'd present you with a gold watch. Then what? They'd give you a guaranteed paycheck every single month for the rest of your life so that you too could live happily ever after. So basically, unless you work for a government agency in the United States, you probably don't have, nor ever will have, that guaranteed paycheck for life.
But how do we build a pension? And one of the things I follow in investing in success is what I call the 4 Ds of investing. And I think we make investing way too complex. You know, BNN, CNN, all the TV shows, financial news, they make it way too complex.
Yeah.
But if you follow these 4 simple rules while working with Lyndsie, I promise you, you will be successful. And this is one great way to build a pension. The first is diversification. So diversification, if you have one elevator and you're riding with 1 cable, or one elevator with 4 cables, which elevator do you feel safer in? Obviously 4. And that's why we want to make sure when working and building a financial plan that we diversify the types of things that we're saving our money in.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing we want to do is what's called the second D, is dollar cost averaging. This is when we have 2 investments. If we have one investment that goes straight up, one investment that goes down, up, down, up, down, up, and we put away $100 a month, the investment that makes more money is option B, because we're naturally buying at a low price. The number one rule I always hear about is buy low, sell high. But if we generate a savings habit of putting in money monthly, we're able to take advantage of that low opportunity. Just like if you were buying tuna or salmon, canned salmon or canned beans at the grocery store, we always want to take advantage of what's lower. But if we can naturally do that by setting up a monthly contribution, we will be successful. And then finally, it's a fancy word for time, but 3 is duration. And if you have time on your side, time equals return, then we will be successful. So if we get a 6% return, divide that into 72, our money is going to double every 12 years. And then finally, the 4th D, the most important, is discipline. If we stick to it, we will be successful.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most important. We have that plan and we stick with it. So when we look at it, as we're looking to build a pension for ourselves, we want to follow the 4 Ds, because then nothing else matters. Donald Trump becomes president. Oh, what should I do? Doesn't matter. We're diversified. We're putting away money monthly, and we have 15 years to our retirement. Oh, what about all this bad news about possible war in North Korea and South Korea? Doesn't matter. We're putting our money in, diversified around the world in different products and different savings opportunities. We're putting it on a monthly basis, and we got a long time for saving.
Yeah.
And if we follow those 4 Ds, eventually we'll be able to build a nice nest egg, and coming at retirement, we can then transfer that to an annuity and get the guaranteed income for life. So finally, hopefully that sums up. And then finally, I want to talk about sort of the gradual inheritance. And this is one of the things that Lyndsie talked about, because some of you may have insurance policies set up for your kids or your grandkids or other beneficiaries. Mm-hmm. But maybe, just maybe, you're not too confident in the financial maturity of your beneficiaries. Mm-hmm. So one of the options that we could look at is setting up what's called a gradual inheritance strategy.
Yeah, this really interests me, because I know there's a lot of people that are buying life insurance to make sure that their spouse and their young children are taken care of if they're gone, but they're worried that somebody might kind of just spend it all and blow it up, and they want to put something in their will or some sort of a strategy in place to stop that from happening. And so, yeah, I'm excited for you to explain this to people.
And so really, can you see this on the screen now?
Yeah.
Can you see Robert and his granddaughter, Carrie?
Yeah, I was going to say, wow, he
yeah.
landed a real hot young wife, but that makes more sense.
No, it's his daughter. It's his daughter.
Okay.
So we got Robert here. And Robert, like most of you, may have an insurance policy set up. And this insurance policy is going to pay his daughter, his life insurance policy, when he passes, it's going to pay his daughter, Carrie, $250,000. But Robert doesn't really feel confident in Carrie's ability to manage money. Maybe she's got that boyfriend he doesn't like. maybe she has that shoe purchasing problem, maybe the online shopping, and Robert really wants this money to last Carrie's lifetime. So what Robert does is he can sit down and within his life insurance application, he can assign the money to be paid to Carrie through an annuity.
Mm-hmm.
So just like we talked before, where Robert, or with annuities are in exchange for checks,
Mm-hmm.
Robert decides to set that up where he goes, you know what, when I pass, I'm going to give Carrie $25,000, 10% of that death benefit as a lump sum of money.
Mm-hmm.
But the remaining 90% of that, Carrie's going to get a check from the life insurance company for 10 years every month for $2,125. So what that does for Robert is it gives him the confidence knowing that when he passes away, Carrie will be financially set up and have that backing for that 10-year period.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully she'll mature into that money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what this does is this is a great way of setting it up so that you don't have to go see a lawyer to set up a formal trust.
Okay.
So it could be done for any grandkids. It could be set up for multiple kids. Great way to kind of provide that gift for a 10-year or 20-year or 30-year period. Because once again, one of the benefits of an annuity is it's completely flexible
Mm-hmm.
and you can have complete control over it.
Yeah, this is great. I don't think very many people know that this exists, right? And when they think of an annuity, they think that it's removing all of the fun of investing and things like that. But I think that we all get to a point in our life where we just want guaranteed income. We don't want the excitement of, investing. And if we do, I'm sure you've seen clients do this before, Michael, where they'll keep, maybe 5 or 10% of their investments for themselves to maybe play the stock market with, or still in trading, and put that other 90% in something really stable.
Yeah. And that's kind of where, when I look at how I'm going to build sort of my financial plan is that, I'm invested in stocks right now and I'm growing and I'm contributing on a monthly basis. But when I hit 55, slowly pieces of that are going to go out and buy an annuity.
Mm-hmm.
Another piece is going to buy an annuity. And I'm slowly going to pull out pieces of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to create that guaranteed paycheck for life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that when I'm sitting in my retirement dream condo in New York, that I have that guaranteed paycheck coming in to cover those expenses.
Yeah.
And I know that when I'm 90 years old and I've moved into long-term care, I will be taken care of because that money will be still coming into my bank account every month.
That's great.
So in kind of summary, when we look at it, I really saw the power of looking at an annuity when my mother couldn't visualize retirement because she didn't know how much money she would come in and was able to visualize because she knew what she was guaranteed on a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm.
Then, being able to say, hey, you know what? I see what it did for her, so I want to do it for myself. And I want to build my wealth. I want to build my savings or my own personal pension using the 4Ds so that I can eventually buy some guaranteed income. And then finally, I've switched my insurance policies over so that my beneficiaries, my nieces and nephews, are going to receive their income spread out over their life. So it's a better way for them to grow into that. And I always selfishly say, hey, every time that check hits every month, they're going to be thinking of their Uncle Mike. So on that note, I'll open it up to some questions.
Yeah. If anyone has, looks like we've got one question. Is there any risk involved with an annuity rather than having a lump sum? So
the risks in the annuity, to get technical a little bit, the risk in an annuity is inflation.
Okay.
So as we know, I always look at my local Chinese food place that I eat at, and I have two menus. I have one from about 2013 and one from today. And when I look at that price increase, my ginger beef has gone up about 20%. So that is one of the biggest risks of annuity, is the cost of goods increasing. But how we mitigate that is kind of like, is the first D is diversification. When working with Lyndsie, you would have some portion in an annuity and some still invested in other places. So that as your investments increase, they beat inflation, and then you buy more guaranteed income. So therefore, you're mitigating and you're balancing the risk between the market and inflation. Does that clarify?
So the risk is more that the amount you've got coming in every month from your annuity might not be enough to cover your expenses. It's not that that amount is ever going to change, right? Because it's a guaranteed income after you lock in, I'm buying this annuity, here's my $1 million, X amount per month for life. That's never going to change. It's just the cost of living will go up, and you may not have enough 20 years into taking your annuity checks to cover your, you know, your bills. Is that
right? Exactly. Because but that's where kind of I've mentioned loosely where, you know, at 55, you would maybe purchase your, you know, your first amount.
Yeah.
And then I get $400 a month. But then at 60, I may buy a little bit more annuity. Now I'm getting $650 a month.
Yeah.
And with annuity, the older you are, the higher income you'll receive.
Because they know that you're not going to be around as long.
So therefore you keep layering it in, and you keep growing that guaranteed income that way.
Yeah, that's great. I like the layering, kind of like how people ladder their GICs, right? You know, when you buy it today. So I guess not only are they going to have a higher rate for you, or a higher payout amount per month for you as you get older, but like you said before, interest rates, inflation, different things have changed, and therefore you could kind of like putting your money in monthly to your RSP. You're kind of buying at different points of the market. Is that sort of a similar way of looking at it?
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example. Look at that. You don't even need me on here anymore.
He's taught me well. Yay. See, I share my favorite smart people with you guys. Isn't that great? Does anyone else have any questions? If you don't, then we will wrap it up. And episode 2 will be airing the first Wednesday of July. I believe I have my guest lined up for that. And she is very much excited to share some exciting strategies with you all as well. And yeah, so thanks so much, Michael. And if anyone has any questions about this, you know how to reach me. I'll have a quick question. It's a trivia question for everyone, and the person who gets it right gets a signed copy of my book. So tomorrow, I'm going to give you a little backstory before I ask the question. Tomorrow, I'm doing my first ever karate grading. So I am going to be like trying on my karate skills and hopefully go from being a white belt to does anyone know what the next belt is in karate? And I don't know if it's different for different dojos, but I'm just basically looking for a primary color. And if you type it into the chat window, and sparkly sequin, brown, green. Wow, so far no dice. Still no dice. It's not yellow either. Yay, Emma wins! It's red. Yeah, red.
Good job, Emma.
A signed copy of my book. Okay, you guys are awesome. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you all very soon. And thanks so much, Michael.
Bye-bye.